Alright guys, try to make this quick. I'm just going to show you, how I put it all back together. So first, of course, is the monitor. The other monitors, the 19-inch, has 3 spots. But I've got it set in here since these were kind of homemade rails, I have 4, which is more than enough. And you may notice there's some gaps in these pieces of wood. I cut it a little too short because I needed to cut it some, but I just used really long screws. So really the screws are like super long. So there's plenty of stability there. So you don't have to worry about that being loose at all. And then I highly advise you getting one of these for just in life. I mean, I use this for everything now. In just throughout the house. Okay, so we have 4 screws. And one more right here. Okay, so now the monitor's mounted back on here. Now, this was a custom bezel or matting. It actually has 2 on it because I had to accommodate for the 17-inch monitor. The one I used for the 19-inch is already cut out for that, but if I was to put that on there, then you can see too much of the monitor. So I got one of these at Michael's, believe it or not, Arts and Crafts, and cut it to size, and it was absolutely perfect. Now you can put double-sided tape down here, and a lot of times I do, but I don't really think it's necessary. It doesn't really slide around too much, but if you feel like it's sliding around too much, just feel free to put a little thin piece of double-sided tape and it sticks on there. But I think for the ease of getting in and out of it, if you need to, it's nice to just kind of put it on there. And then here is the glass. So I'm gonna just use my magic rag here. I don't really know what it's called, but it really is a magic rag. It's unbelievable. It's great for electronics, and you can just use water. You don't even have to use Windex on a lot of things, but it's just amazing. So it really comes in handy for the glass work. So I wanted to do this. Make sure it's nice and clean before I put it in, which it is. All right, and then you will just slide it in. I usually do it from player 2 side. Okay, this is a little tricky because these lights stick up a little high, so I'm not used to do that. Try not to touch it too much, so just try to be careful sliding it in. It gets a little stuck, but you want it to be kind of tight anyway. You don't want it flopping around or anything like that. And then once it gets going, it usually slides right in. Okay, so see, that wasn't so bad. And then once I get it all together, I can do a little more Windex on the outside. So then I just center that, and then it's good to go. And then these will kind of hold it in place, but it doesn't move around or anything. Actually, while I'm here, I'll just hit that. Make sure we don't have any marks on it for my fingers. I was told glass guys use rubber gloves. I don't have any rubber gloves, so I'm just going to be careful. All right, so that looks good. Then we'll just put player 2 side on here, and then the the screws are already in it. Okay. All right. And there is player one side. And these will just go right down in there. You can see that. I'm not sure. Okay. Usually hold this down a little bit. Nice tight fit. That might have been a little too much. There we go. And now it's together. So then you'll see that I've got a Galaga on this side. And then I had this Mr. Do, and I've done this one time a while back. And it makes for a nice green theme. So I put the green knobs on here. These will actually unscrew. You may have seen from my last video, my son, when we were doing gameplay, I noticed later that it came off on him. Before I send it, I take a wrench carefully here and kind of crank it down so that it won't do that. But they come right off. It's pretty nice, so you can change your colors. This particular graphic I've had for a while, so it's sticking up here a little. I'm going to take care of that with some tacky glue real carefully, so make sure that doesn't come off. This one's is newer, so it's fine. But that's the view of it. Now let me put this back up here for a second, and I will turn this around so that you can see the other side that I wanted to show you. Okay. Right here, you've got your power cord. It's regular old computer power cord, and then there's the on switch. This is where the test switch will go, but it won't be hooked up. And then this was where the SD card extender goes on my cabinets. So I used this because they made this so that it would stick out, so that I could make this a real nice volume knob here, right? But I don't know why, but they put the outlet for this thing in the same place. So it doesn't look as nice as I would like it to look, but I used a little piece here, and this is your audio cable. It just kind of goes around, and you saw on the inside what it does. So I don't like the way that looks that much, but I really wanted to make sure there was a volume knob out here, because it's pretty important, because you can't get into the other one. The arcade SD was nice because you just flip the switch and you could do the volume right there with the buttons, but you can't do that with this board. So, but this works nice. And this will look a little better once I put in, you saw it, one of those little test switches. All right, so let me turn off this light, a couple lights, so we can see this a little better. How about this one too? There, that's pretty good, I think. All right, so we will fire it up, and you'll see the light up buttons here. It's really, they look much better than in this video, but this is a nice blue and green. Now I wanted to show you how this comes up, right? So it comes up, says Game Elf, and then you'll see here in just a second, press S1 to set up. At that point, you would press that little black button, you could get into setup. And I will send you some instructions on the setup. It's pretty, you'll have to read it a few times. I've had to read it a few times to go, what do I do to get to where? But you can get to everything, and it's not a bad setup because you can change a lot of things. And then here's the menu. Oh, let me show you. This one's, you can't see it very well either, but this is green and red. And then the player 1 and player 2. I didn't have light up ones, but I just used these nice white ones that, but for player 1 and player 2. So I figured you could figure that one out. But there's our game list, right? So it comes up, highlights Miss Pac-Man at the very first, tells you what to do. You know, one player start, and then you know, up down. Right now it's on coin free play. I turned the timer off. What that does is that you can be browsing through the games, but when that timer gets down to 0, it'll automatically go into whatever game you're on, and it was kind of annoying. But what that means is that if you turn this on and don't go into a game, it'll just sit like this. It won't scroll through the games automatically from here. It will, if you go into the, oh, here, I'll show you. We'll just go into Miss Pac-Man. Okay, so I hit player 1. And then it's kind of like MAME, basically, where it will boot into the machine. A little different than the arcade SD and the 16.1. But most of the games are pretty quick, so there it comes up. And then this will just stay like this and be in demo mode, like a regular arcade game. So you can leave it like that. Now if I press the player 1, you can see it gives me 1 coin, and it starts right up. And then you can turn it up pretty loud. And there is, right? So then to get out of the game, you press and hold this, okay? I think it's 5 seconds, and then you get this menu. Continue, if that's not what you want to do, or if I take the joystick and I go down 1, I can exit. Of course, it tells you what you do, and then I press and hold this for maybe 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and then we go back to the menu. So that's pretty easy. 16.1, you can't interrupt the game like that. Arcade SD, you can. It's a little easier with that, but the 16.1, you actually have to die. So I'll just go ahead and flip through some of these games real quick. If you go to the left or right with your joystick, well, I didn't, yeah, it'll go like 10 down, right? So it'll do 10 at a time, right? So these, I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll just show you the first, say 60 to maybe a first 100. And there's a lot of great games. There's some hacks on here, but there's some really good ones. A lot that are on the 16.1 are in that first 60. But then you keep going. You know, there's like one like Big Kong, which is, you know, basically a hack of Donkey Kong or Crazy Kong. All right, and if I keep going, then you start getting into stuff like Arabian and, you know, Astro Invader, Astro Blaster. Actually, is Astro Blaster the one I'm thinking of? That's the one. I loved that game when I was a kid. Oh, it was so fun. Other people will be like, what is this? But it's actually a fun game. Anyway, then we go through, we're up at 90. And then there's some good ones in here. Circus Charlie. I mean, there's some decent ones. Then you start getting into about 100 mark. Let's see, there's Eagle, Eyes, you know, some of them you start recognizing, some of them you don't. Fire Trap, and again, some of them you have to go by the screenshot. I'm trying to give you the names without the screenshot, so, but it does give you a screenshot of every one. Like that's Jolly Jogger, right? Whatever Jolly Jogger is, who knows, right? I have no idea. But then you got Kangaroo and Kicker. You know, Kicker's that's an old one. I remember that one. And let's see. And there's a few on there. And Nibbler is on here. Naughty Boy. Some things I recognize. And you start to get to 200. And, you know, it's hit or miss from here. There is Bagman, but there's definitely some jewels in here, but a lot of junk ones. But there's like puzzle games. There's video pinball games. A variety of things that, you know, it's worth going through. Took about 45 minutes to an hour and just kind of looked through them all to see what was what. And you know, there's Woodpecker, and so then we get to 271. Then you got Anteater, Devastators. Now, and in here, this is, you start going to this, like Aereo Fighters. These are those scrolling shooter games. The next 100, there's like a bunch of these scrolling shooter games. Like, there is Tetris right there, which is very cool. But, you know, a lot of these, if I just come back a little bit, you'll see that you may not have heard of them, but most of them are scrolling shooter, or Gangbusters, which is sort of still a scrolling shooter, even though you're not flying. And there's a ton of those, right? So there's one. That was that Time Scanner, right? So it's like a pinball, video pinball, and those are actually pretty fun. You know, and then randomly way down here at 294 is Galaga Fast Shoot, which a lot of people like to play Galaga and Fast Shoot. And then let's see, Dragon Spirit. And then when we get to, I think it's about 350. See, there's Galaga 88, Galaga 84. Let's see. Yeah, so then when you get to about 51, so then you can start getting in like alpine skiing, I've heard of. Remember that as a kid at the ski resorts. I used to play all the time at the ski resorts. Carnival, I grew up playing. Frontline, Green Beret, Joust 2, Kick, Karate Champ. So, you know, and here comes like Qbert, right? So all of a sudden you got Qbert. Qbert may be a little bit tricky because it's a 4-way diagonal joystick, and you've got an 8-way. So you can probably get used to playing it if you do it right. I've done it before, but you know, sometimes you think you're gonna try to go left and it goes down or something like that. But you'll just have to check that out. Kicks. It's got some like Satan's Hollow and Sinistar. Tac Scan, which is really cool game. It's not showing it real good on the screenshot, but Tempest. Some of them you won't be able to play. Charon's a little tricky. There's Time Pilot 84, right? And then we go all the way up to 412, right? And then it starts back over. So there's your game list. But it, I mean, I think it sounds pretty good, right? So if we just go into Donkey Kong, right? Let me turn off this other light so you can get a good view. Hopefully. Right? So that's a pretty good view. So let me hit player 1. So that's not bad. I mean, I go by Donkey Kong for bass. It's pretty good. Now, again, I'm playing with one hand here, but see how good at Donkey Kong I am with one hand. All right, Christian Harper, this one's for you, buddy. Donkey Kong with one hand. Oh, I did hit jump. All right, never mind. Scratch that. So anyway, there's Donkey Kong. Let me just go ahead and hit this. And 5 seconds. And then we go back. And we hit exit. And then we're out again. All right, so that's it. If you have any questions about that, I tried to cover everything. I know this is a bit of a long video for something like this, but I figured you can go back and reference it if needed. And again, with the player 1, right, if you had this off, you take the player 1 off, you've got that little black button for test, and then if you reach underneath, you'll be able to adjust the monitor. I've turned it on and off so many times, but the monitor seems to be consistent. Obviously we got a glare right now, but it's nice and bright, and you know, it stays centered and everything, which there's been some issues with in a couple of them that I've sent out, but we've worked those things out. And again, let me know. It's up for grabs. If you want it, shoot me an email at Jeffrey S. Dyer, which is my YouTube channel. name at yahoo.com. I'll put it in the comment section as well. But shoot me an email and we'll work something out. But I can give you a good deal on this one. So until next time, thanks for listening and game on.